we would all do like that. You see, we each given a flower, and then we would give it to him, and Srila Prabhupada would give us a flower in exchange. And occasionally he would stop and say something to one of the devotees, and we were all sort of hoping that he would stop and say something to us. I remember I had been staying there in the temple for about 2 weeks, and one day he stopped, and when I offered my flower he said to me, "Oh, you're new here?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Are you happy here?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Very good." And took the flower, and he continued. But it was very exciting. That was the most exciting part of the day, as we'd all line up kneeling on either side of the entranceway into the temple. And the children would run down the middle, and Srila Prabhupada would show them some extra affection and play with them a little bit, show them different flowers until they found one they liked. He was always very, very affectionate with the children.
The exchange of flowers that started in Los Angeles after Prabhupada came back from his morning walk was just one of the sweetest and most memorable exchanges that I've ever had in my Krishna conscious career with Prabhupada. Prabhupada would go on the morning walk, and typically he would go to Venice, but not always, Venice Beach. And then when he returned, prior to the greeting of the deities, the devotees would be prepared for him in 2 lines, and all the children would be there. And it was such a sweet time. Everybody was so happy that it's so obvious that the children also sort of enjoyed the whole thing. The whole atmosphere was just completely enjoyable and family-like. This wonderful, wonderful exchange of flowers with Prabhupada. And then this was going on outside the temple. I mean, we could have done it inside the temple or something, but it was just there being done as Prabhupada dismounted from the car, and we were right there on the street and greeting Prabhupada right when he first arrived there.
Prabhupada got out of his car, and as he got out of his car, Prabhupada had his foot there. And Dinanath hopped down, grabbed Prabhupada's foot, had Prabhupada's foot in his hand, and he was kissing Prabhupada's feet. And I'm like a new devotee. I'm like, he's kissing his feet. You know, the feet are considered to be the most objectionable part of his body. Not something that you would bend down and kiss. And I'm looking down, and Dinanath just completely ignored any kind of social convention. He had no concern for what anyone was thinking. And he was just kissing Prabhupada's feet, and I just remember I couldn't believe it. And Prabhupada just let him do it, and it seemed like for it to turn out, I can't believe it. He's kissing his feet. But, Dinanath got the mercy.
So Srila Prabhupada was so personal in his dealings with the devotees, and that was one aspect that was so attractive to people in the early days of the Krishna consciousness movement. You see how Srila Prabhupada, he always relished reciprocating love with his devotees. It simply wasn't Srila Prabhupada asking for service or demanding things from his followers, but Srila Prabhupada always wanted to give back. And when Prabhupada would come to the temple in LA, I always think that's such a nice example of that, how Srila Prabhupada would reciprocate with us this bhakti, this exchange of love, by giving flowers to the devotees as we would line up along the pavement. It was very sublime, because Srila Prabhupada, he was never rushed. He would, we would give him a flower, and then Srila Prabhupada would give us a flower. And I always think how Srila Prabhupada said that love is an exchange of feeling. You need 2 for love. And I remember he would, sometimes when we would give a flower and then he would give one back, Prabhupada would just stand there, so when we bowed down, we could put our head right on Srila Prabhupada's feet. And he was always, had this very ecstatic, blissful smile, and you could see that Srila Prabhupada loved us in such a way that was practically incomprehensible, because he saw us as these lost particles of spirit soul from Lord Krishna, and he was so happy to play a part in bringing us back to Krishna's lotus feet. That's me. Whoa. Didn't expect me there. So this was just a real highlight in my life of being able to, get a flower from Srila Prabhupada and give a flower back to Srila Prabhupada. So simple, yet so sublime. And there was always one devotee who would block Srila Prabhupada's walkway, his pathway into the temple, just so he could get to ask Srila Prabhupada for his mercy or to say something to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada never ever got disturbed or agitated that this person was being so bold in his approach. He would always just shake his head wonderfully or touch the devotee on his head with a blessing. So we all felt that this was a very special time where Srila Prabhupada was really giving us a blessing. And when he was handing us this flower, it was like, Prabhupada was touching our heart with that flower, that soft lotus petal of his flower-like glance.
Shortly after this exchange, everybody would follow Prabhupada into the temple, and there was the greeting of the deities. Prior to this, at least in Los Angeles, I don't think that there was really a formal greeting of the deities ceremony. So I believe this basically introduced the greeting of the deities ceremony as we know it today. At least it certainly did in Los Angeles. And then typically on many mornings, Shilabhati would fill the deity room with frankincense, clouds of frankincense. And then when she opened the doors, the frankincense would often billow out into the temple, and there would be this sort of cloud of frankincense, which also to me was very mystical, and Prabhupada bowing down. And then afterwards he took Charnamrita, and then he would proceed to his Vyasasan. And I remember Vishnu Jan leading us in the Samsara prayers. One time Prabhupada, at the end of the singing of the Samsara prayers, said very gravely, Samsara davana lilithaloka, and then he said the whole first verse, and he said, what is the meaning? And everybody was stunned, because probably a few devotees knew, but after being quizzed like that from Prabhupada, nobody knew, and then one person recited the English meaning of the verse. But Prabhupada then said, that we should all know what the meaning was.
It wasn't too long after I joined that the Govinda prayers started to be played in the morning. The album had come from England, that Radha Krishna Temple album. Just one morning it happened. It seemed quite spontaneous that the deity doors opened up and the Govinda prayers went on. And Prabhupada went through as normal, offering his dandavats in front of each altar. But when he went around and he sat on the Vyasasan, tears were coming down his face. He was so pleased by the Govinda prayers, and he wasn't able to speak for some time.